rounds 14 and 15, where we are in Spain and Great Britain. Silverstone, tasty. I'm joined this evening by Aaron, who's going to be co-commentating with me. Say hello, Aaron.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Very much looking forward to tonight. Two 25% races, short qualifying first, followed by two races around Spain and Great Britain. During qualifying, we will be having a quick word with McLaren driver Trem, who we hear has suffered a qualifying ban due to an incident last week between himself and James Punt. So that'll be interesting to hear Trem's side on that.
Yeah, very wet race last week in Japan for these guys. It took a lot of concentration for them to even finish that race, so it's no surprise that there was a few incidents going on there.
It was just a bit damp, wasn't it? You were down there. You were down there.
I was down there. I was on the ground, and I didn't even make it past lap one. But I'm not proud of that. Right, we have just kicked off this qualifying session, so we're going to keep you up to date with the news on the track as it happens. Obviously at the moment everyone's just doing their setups. It will be interesting, Aaron, to see what setups people do go for around this Spain circuit. It is a bit of a tough one to crack, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean it's all going to vary. The weather's looking good out there, so you're going to want to go just pure pace, try and get yourself on the front of that grid and get as many points as possible. As I say, just chatting to you earlier on, we were talking about the Constructors' Championship, and it looks very much like the cars of Granty Boy and the Finger for BWT Racing Point are doing extremely well. But I believe we've got Albert DeWitt taking one of those seats tonight, who once again did well last week in Japan. In that wet race, he placed second on the podium, so that was a great result. Once again, they're banking big points this season, 404 points to be precise. And the nearest contender to them is McLaren with 269. So you'd like to think at this point they've got it in the bag.
It is certainly looking strong for them, but can't be denied. I mean, when you're that far ahead of the title championship, and it's, we're not even towards the end yet. There's still a good amount of races left for these guys, but it is looking very strong. Currently on board with Simon Jr. He seems to be the first of the actual races out of the pits. I say the actual races, I don't know if you've noticed, we've got Max Verstappen in this session. Currently is the second Red Bull driver. That's the actual Max Verstappen, I'll have you know. He's come all the way from his probably mansion in Monaco just to come and join us this evening.
Yeah, and that's why he has no numbers at the end of his name.
That's it. He doesn't need numbers.
They know Max Verstappen needs no numbers.
Okay, so it looks like Simon Jr. is sort of around about halfway around his lap. No, he's actually coming towards the end of sector 3, so we'll try and stay on board with him now as he goes for a hot lap around this Spain circuit. So it's important that he keeps that speed out of that final corner there on this long straight, which brings you down into the large braking zone for turn 1. I do expect to be seeing a majority of the overtakes tonight done on this straight and down there in turn 1, so it'll be interesting to see if those guys can keep the speed up.
So all going to come down to who can manage that fuel, who's got the strategy for it. This race being so dry and such nice weather is going to be a massive testament to team strategies, I think, throughout the evening.
Absolutely. I mean, this track is famously known for tyre wear as well, so it wouldn't surprise me if we do see a lot of people just trying to manage those tyres initially and then trying to make it count at the end.
Exactly.
Simon Jr. looks to be pretty steady on this lap at the moment, holding the speed through there. It's a slight lift, I heard, as he goes through that turn 9 bend as he comes down to the turn 10 hairpin. Does take it a little bit wide there, but he's held it together and he comes up to this technical part of the circuit, which really is difficult to nail. You certainly can lose a couple of seconds here. It's definitely a killer if you don't get this right.
What I'm going to do
with this lap, however,
very quickly is we're just going to try and get Trem involved in the chat now, just to see his how he's doing, twiddling his thumbs down in pit lane. So if you just bear with me, I'll get him in the party.
Okay, let's try riding on board with someone else at the moment. We're going to take a little look at Wheeler in the Renault. again, looks to be coming towards the end of sector 3. Not too sure if this is a flyer for Wheeler or not. We'll just see what his time is. We're starting to get some times on the board now. Luckily, Max Verstappen is not at the races today. Otherwise, he would be tearing us apart. And Wheeler goes across the line and puts himself into 7th. So, not the greatest lap there compared to what we've seen already. We've got Panda setting a 1:15, Granty Boy setting a 1:15.6, so a 10th in it for those guys. Followed short by the McLarens, 1:16.3 and 1:16.6. But it is looking quick out there so far, I would say, looking very quick.
Right, good evening, Trem. How are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. How is it down there twiddling your thumbs in pit lane?
Yeah, not too great, to be honest.
Tell us a little bit more about the incident from last week. Obviously, you got only a 5-second penalty, but then also the qualifying ban is obviously the big hit for this round, isn't it?
Yeah, it was one of them where James went up my inside and I was on the outside, and it was a combination of either flying off into the barriers or trying to make the turn. Tried to make the turn that hit James. And took him out the race.
Been on track in the qualifying session. That looks to be D. Lawson having a bit of trouble getting into the pit entry there, but he's pulled it together. He's just about to limp it back home into the pits, but yeah, just to show you can get on that power a bit too early on that final turn and spin it quite easily. Sorry to interrupt there.
No worries, no worries. So from your perspective then, Trem, obviously this is now, you know, the Constructors' Championship is tight between yourselves at McLaren and Mercedes. You know, there's about 10-11 points in it. So from your perspective, what's going to be the game plan for tonight? Are you going to be trying to get as many points as you can from race 1, or using race 1 as sort of like a pole vault into Japan, into Great Britain?
The main thing is with Spain is the S's at the start, so with me starting at the back, I'm hoping a few guys are going to take each other out.
Just hope to avoid that trouble.
And I'll just try and pick off a couple of places and possibly try and get to like 10th.
Yeah, just trying to pick up as much as you can with what you're dealt, really, I guess, is the main aim.
It just depends what tyre selection I'm going to go with.
Have you got any ideas on that yet, or you're not going to think about that until you hit the grid?
Yeah, I'm going to wait to see what my teammate does.
Well, you'll be pleased to know CRL Panda is currently fastest man on circuit with a 1:15.560. Very close, to be fair, between himself and Granty Boy in the racing point.
Granty said this is one of his fastest tracks, so
cause for concern there
for the Drivers' Championship. You don't want to be hearing that.
No.
But no, not. I mean, again, it looks like it's going to be an interesting race. You got some really close lap times at the moment. I mean, if that can be replicated in the race and everyone can stay out of each other's way, then we should have some good laps ahead of us here.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's going to rain as well the first couple of laps, so
that could make things interesting. Then that could make things really interesting. Is that now the debate? Do you go straight out on slicks, or are you thinking is it going to rain enough for intermediates? What's the general consensus? Have you had a chance to talk to Panda about it at all?
No, I haven't. I think normally what I do is just let him run his own race and I run my own race. Because he's normally that far ahead of me on pace and stuff. We're not really going to hold each other up in the pits.
Just going to see if you can both bank your own points, get some points on the board, try and pull away from Mercedes, because last week we saw Mercedes looking quite quick. Chatty Duck took first place in Italy and then actually managed to get third, so podium both races for Mercedes. That's closed the gap up on the Constructors' Championship somewhat considerably, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, Italy was insane. Seems where he got took out at the first chicane.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all getting close. We've got 2 rounds tonight, and then obviously a break next week before hitting rounds 16 and 17 in Singapore and Australia. I'm sure you'll be hoping tonight to catch up with keeping ahead of the Mercedes team. And trying to break that gap a bit more if you can.
Yeah, I'm just not liking looking at them in 3rd and 4th at the moment.
They're running really close together. Obviously, they're both on their outlap actually at the moment, Tom. If we grab a little look on board with Chatty Duck, obviously we know he's quick. These weather conditions are going to suit him down to the ground, I would assume. He looks quick in Italy. how do you think this race is going to go for him, Tom?
Well, again, if he can maintain the pace that he had in Italy, then he's going to have a good chance of getting up there, especially if he can stay where he is in qualifying at the moment. I mean, third is going to be a good shot of maybe getting an overtake into that first corner. But yeah, I do think he's got a very good chance here if he can keep up that pace.
I don't know if you noticed there, sorry to just interrupt there. Granty Boy's just set another fastest lap. It looks like Chatty Duck obviously let him through there, you know, good courtesy, but I did wonder if he was just going to try and get a toe there.
Yeah, James has just done. Ripped his wing off.
Oh, that's what you want to be seeing from from this perspective. Obviously, he's still fourth starting position, but do you reckon that'll cast a few seeds of doubt in his mind with how early he put the power on there at all? Do you reckon, Tom?
I think it will. I think whenever you have a spin in these types of races, it always sort of creeps in that you've done it once, you can do it again. And I think it is just managing your excitedness. Everyone wants to be quick out of these turns, but we all know it takes just a little bit too much on that pedal, and then you are in the grass or the gravel in this case. Luckily, there's not many walls to contend with. It's not very a tight track, but yeah, you go too fast off here and you could end up ruining your race. But at the moment, just riding on board with Chatty Duck as he comes around at the end of his flyer, just finishing up sector number 2 at the moment, heading down to that tight hairpin. See if he can. Oh, it's a lock up on the front left there. That's not going to help him at all. He's just coming round to the tight right-hander of turn 12, getting ready for the very tight chicane. Notice here a couple of drivers going over the sausage curbs on these chicanes, and that does seem to be slowing them down quite a lot. Chatty Duck misses the first one, goes over the second one. Let's see what this will do for his time. He's just about to come across the line. And he goes pole with a 1:15.23. So we were 200ths of a second quicker than Granty Boy.
But obviously we were just discussing, weren't we, exactly how quick Chatty Duck looked last week in Italy. So it comes really as no surprise really that he's just going to put a really quick lap in there. Something that unfortunately, Trem, you probably wouldn't want to see from your position right now. Is just seeing how far up the grid those two Mercedes are.
Well, it would be handy if Granty dives up his inside and takes the pair of them and go out.
Yeah, anything can happen off the start. Anything can happen going down into turn 1.
Fingers crossed.
Turn 1, once again, turn 1 here at Catalunya is quite a tight right-hander. It's, you know, the S's are a relatively tight pair of corners, so you know anything could happen, I guess, going into that first turn, and I assume that's probably what you'll be looking for.
And just flushing up there on race control, Wolsey has just been given a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Jamie 10. Obviously, we've just missed that. We can't quite keep an eye on what's happened, but unfortunately, no replays. But that is going to hurt him at the moment. Qualifying in 13th, you know, that's going to be tough.
I can see, however, Jamie 10 has dipped back into pit lane.
Yeah, I think they both have damage, so they're going to need to get that sorted before they go for a last flyer.
Right guys, I will leave you to your commentary and I will shoot back over to the other party.
Right, lovely. Yeah, all the best for the race, Trem, and we hope to see you on the other side. No problem at all.
Okay, riding on board with Panda at the moment, Trem's McLaren teammate. Set a 1:15.5 earlier in the session. It looks like he's just gone out on another flyer. He's just gone down the sharp downhill left-hander of turn 5. Coming up to the little medium speed chicane of turns 7 and 8, and he wants to try and be flat out here. A little tiny lift, but he does carry the speed through the corner. Coming up to that final sector now, where it all gets a little bit twisty turny. Gets a good amount of curve there. See a little lift there as well. But this is looking like a tidy lap, Aaron.
It's looking good as you head down towards turn 13, now into the 14-15 sort of chicane there as he comes round onto the final straight of the lap. It's looking quick. Is it going to be quick enough? It's close.
No,
it's very close. But I mean, from the perspective of, you know, the times these guys are putting in, they're so evenly matched up the front, those front three. It's going to come into racecraft. Who gets a good launch off the line? Obviously, we'll be following that quite profusely for the first couple of laps, I'd assume. With 4 minutes left in the session, it's still Chatty Duck out there at the front with a 1:15.235. we'll see how the rest of the
Next across
session.
the line, we've got Albert DeWitt in the other racing point. Let's see if he can get anywhere near his teammate. And he's going to improve his position to 5th there, so that's not a bad lap. That's going to give him a chance to support his teammate.
See now, sorry to interrupt you there, Tom, but that was someone.
The mediums as well.
I was looking at this earlier on, and it seemed very strange that for the first sort of 15 or so, 10-15 minutes of qualifying there, Albert DeWitt did not actually post a lap time. So he's come out relatively fresh, and this is like his 2nd or 3rd lap as such. So it's quite impressive for him to, jump right up to 5th within such a short amount of time on circuit. So I mean, he had a great week. Looking at the results from last week, he had a 5th and a 2nd position in Japan. So he's recently come into the league, and he's starting to really show that he's got what it takes to actually get up there with those front runners. So he could be one to watch.
Just riding on board with James Punt as he goes out on another flyer. This is probably likely to be one of his last flying laps of the session. He may try and squeeze another one in with just under 3 minutes remaining. But we're just coming down to this chicane here at 7 and 8 as he heads on down to the what should be flat out turn 9. And again, there's a slight lift there, but that's okay. Most people have been lifting at that corner so far. I was just about to say what impressed me about that lap as well. He's done that on the mediums, Albert DeWitt. I mean,
that is impressive.
That's, on the mediums, yeah.
And I mean that would almost prompt me as much to say that if he starts the race on those medium tyres and can outrun the soft tyres, I can assume, you're looking at CRL Panda, James Punt, Granty Boy, Chatty Duck, they're all going to be most likely running softs off the line. So it will be interesting to see if Albert DeWitt runs mediums. If he runs them, then will he be able to outrun the soft tyres and hopefully outdo them on strategy, which is, like we said earlier on, that's what it's gonna come down to. A lot of it is going to be the strategy, fuel management. We could be in for a really, really tight race here.
Just watching a couple of people on slide. Mercian setting a 121 does improve his position ever so slightly. Oh, no, he doesn't actually, sorry. I think this is actually going to be his flyer, by the way he is attacking that first corner. We'll keep on board with him. We'll just keep an eye out for anyone else on the track coming up to finishing their laps. I can see there is the 2 McLarens on the track at the moment.
So
I think
from what I can also see on the left of my timing screen, I can see that D Lawson 85, Simon Jr. and obviously Trem are all out of the session. So obviously something's happened there with Simon and Lawson 85. Lawson 85 starting in 10th at the moment as it stands. It'll be interesting to see what race pace is and see what actually happened to those guys, why they're now out of the session.
So just keeping on track with Mercian here as he comes to start sector number 3. He has got almost 0.2 of a second to make up on N. Willis to try and take that 7th place from him at the moment. He's just rounding his... Oh, it's a big bump off the sausage curbs there. You see what I mean about how it can ruin a lap. He's just going around the final bend now. No, he's going to abandon that lap. Okay, he must not have liked what he was feeling there, so he's abandoned that lap.
And that is his qualifying done.
Yes, yeah. So there's only the guys on track that are able to set times now. Jamie 10 has just come into the pits. We have got the other Renault out on track, who looks like he's just about squeezed in another flyer. So we will stay with Wheeler as he goes round for a flyer, just trying to improve on the 6th position that he currently holds. Nice and tight on that first corner. Sorry, the curb on the 2nd corner. Sorry,
Tom. Just to jump in there a little bit, we've got ZGS23 about to potentially post his first time of the session as he now heads down towards turns 14 and 15. That chicane there towards the end of sector 3. He's on a 113. He should be plummeting himself up. He should be getting up the grid, and yes, he is. He's now posted a time in the top 10. 1 lap he's put in this session.
That's all you need sometimes.
Exactly, it's that 1 lap.
He's done very well.
It's that 1 lap that puts the 2 Ferraris together as it stands, P7, P8.
That's an Alpha. Yeah.
Oh, is that an Alpha and Willis? Yes, yep.
Goddamn dark red.
It's all in the red, and they're running Ferrari power units.
It's all the same.
It's all the same stuff.
we're just going to finish up with Wheeler here as he crosses the line, coming around the final bend now. Can he improve on the 1:16.5 he's already set? He does improve his time by a tenth almost. No, just almost a couple of hundredths actually. But it is enough to take him above Albert DeWitt. So not a bad time at all there. There's a couple of others on track at the moment. Whether or not they are setting laps or just cooling down remains to be seen. Let's try and get on board. So yeah, it looks like just a cool down lap for a lot of these guys on track at the moment. So that looks like it is going to do it for the qualifying session.
Yeah, well, what a little session that was. You know, there's some close times. Those top three guys. I mean, to be fair, Granty has actually managed to outdo Chatty Duck there, which we kind of overlooked really, in the sense that those guys are so close together. But Granty's taken pole position for this race. With a 1:14.425, that's one hell of a lap time round here.
I did notice that Granty had those initial laps on the mediums as well. He's done his fastest lap looks to be on the soft, so I think that means he has to start on those soft tyres, where his teammate maybe will have the choice to go on the mediums because he set his fastest lap on those mediums.
Exactly. I mean, that's going to do him the world of good in the Drivers' Championship. I mean, he's currently leading the Drivers' Championship on 289 points, with Panda behind him on 211 and Chatty Duck back in third place with 188. So, from Granty Boy's perspective, that's a good start for the evening. Although it looks incredible to see that DeWitt there posting that lap time on mediums. He's going to be on pace. Yeah. He's going to be on pace tonight.
Absolutely. So you just look at the top three there. I mean, you've got just about a second in it, or 8/10 of a second between Panda, Granty and Chatty Duck. So it's actually a bigger gap than you'd see in most sort of F1 qualifying sessions. But you know, I think it's still going to produce a quick and a quick and close race for us, especially as they all head down into that turn one. We do have rain for the race, as you can see on the screen in front of me, so that is going to change up the dynamic ever so slightly, and that doesn't look like just light rain either. That could be causing a few tricky decisions for people. This
is going to throw a spanner in the works for a lot of people. You know, now we're talking Parc Fermé rules in the sense that now there's only very, very limited adjustment on the cars. So the question is now, obviously, when we asked Trem earlier on, he didn't quite know what he was going to do for the setup. He had a feeling that the start of the race was going to be damp. Will he have potentially been the only driver to set his car up for the wet, in a sense? Because these other guys are looking so quick that, you know, the speed in the wet. Obviously, we saw last week in Japan how much chaos it can cause. I mean, this is nowhere near what we had in Japan, but you know, it's still going to cause issues for some of those drivers.
Okay, and we are just going to watch these guys go around on the formation lap. So they do have a formation lap in this league as well, which gives these guys a chance to warm up their tyres, of course, and just get a bit familiar with how their cars feel under that heavy fuel load. That's the one thing I would say is the major difference on this game. You know, you can really feel it when your car is carrying that extra load of fuel, and if you're not ready for that, that's when you could cause yourself a few problems, especially at those first turns. Just looking at tyre selection for a couple of people, I've just seen Granty Boy is on the inters, so people will be starting on those wet tyres.
I was going to say, everyone on the grid so far starting inters. We've had no bold choices. Albert DeWitt didn't want to run his trusty mediums again, in hopes that this might dry out relatively quickly, so it does tell us that, you know, potentially we're in for rain for quite a lot of this race.
Yeah, absolutely, and these guys just taking it tentatively around here, as you found out last week, Aaron, that things can go wrong on formation lap.
Exactly, yeah, Thursday night they can go very, very wrong. Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen in Russia this Thursday.
Give a little shout out for the Slydog Thursday Night League. Me and Aaron both are part of that, just starting to get involved in the F1 esports thing. But yeah, I believe there may even be a couple of spots available for that if anyone is interested. Find them on the Facebook groups. We've got the predicted pit stop strategy in front of us there, so you can do a one stop here, or you can do a two stop, and it is predicting most people to pit stop for inters again, so possibly the track isn't going to dry out enough to get back on those slicks that we've just seen them in qualifying.
Now that to me, that's going to be a huge shame in the sense that race pace was, in the weather we had for qualifying, I'd like to see these guys run race pace in those conditions, because I think, it would be brilliant to see. But I think we're in for quite an action-packed turn one really here in the wet.
Absolutely. All it takes is one person to not quite judge that braking zone correctly, and we could have a bit of an issue coming down to that first turn. We're going to go on the sort of cinematic camera just to keep an eye on this start, try and keep an eye on what happens. Obviously, if there is going to be a few slides and crashes, it will be difficult to get everyone mentioned, but once the drama of the first lap is over, we'll try and recap what we can. But yeah, the guys lining up at the moment, everyone seems to be in their positions.
Yep.
We are just waiting for these lights. Okay, and we are 5 lights. And they are away. It looks to be a strong start from the guys at the front. We can see that there is already an incident at the back with the Haas and the Ferraris, but we'll catch up to that in a second, see what the lasting ramifications of that are. Everyone looks pretty tidy at the moment into that first turn. No dramas from what we can see currently, as I just flick through the field to make sure everyone does make it. Everyone does seem to be round safely, so we'll keep on board with Granty Boy for this first lap to see if he can create any sort of lead and therefore dominance of this race.
Oh, we've got one off in the background. Yellow flag as Butters has absolutely sent it off at what I can assume is turn 3. That's going to be a DNF and an instant safety car on lap 1. Couldn't quite see what happened in the background there.
I think and there's a little incident there with Wolsey as well in racing number 6. There we are, racing number 6, a 5-second penalty for that severe collision, and we also have a penalty for NUFC fan Liam in the Alfa Romeo, and that's going to be for ignoring the yellow flags. So already a bit of drama going on. We're not even halfway around the lap and we've got a safety car. We did say anything can happen in the wet.
Exactly, anything can happen in the wet. This will be making Trem very happy, we can assume. Looking at the detail, the position change, Trem is up 2 places, but with anything can happen. We've seen CRL Panda in that McLaren taking that very, very important second place over Chatty Duck, keeping the Mercedes behind him, which is going to do well for them as far as the Constructors' Championship goes, but he's going to need that support from Trem. He's going to need to see Trem climb the ladder over the next few laps.
Biggest loser from the start looks to be racing number 6, dropping 3 places there. However, NUFC fan Liam will be gutted with that penalty. He had made up 6 spaces originally. So that is a shame. Oh, we've got Chatty Duck dropping a few places there. What's happened?
Can't actually see any problems with his car. He's dropped down 12 places under the safety car, so I don't know if this is some form of tactical. I can't see. Oh no, I think it's just sorting out. We're having some issues here with the.
I'm not too sure what's going on here. I think there might be some issues because there is a lot of people who are retiring from this session. So we will try and get an idea of what's going on at the moment. But half the field, near enough all the field, it looks like it's going to retire. Not too sure what has happened. There may be a connection issue for someone.
Here we go.
We are starting the race again without Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, you are not invited, buddy.
Not invited back. So bear with us as we go for a full restart here. I was getting very confused with what was happening there.
I was getting very confused. We were not made aware that was going to happen. So we will keep on board with the remaining people in this race. Just wait for them to leave the session. And then we will get going with this Catalonia race. What we're going to do, I think we're just going to take a little break while this gets sorted out, and we will be back shortly when this race kicks in again. Okay, and we are back. Apologies for what's happened there. Looks like there was a red flag in that session, so the guys have had to restart, of course, and regroup. Max Verstappen has been banned. Sorry, Max.
That was
no longer welcome here.
Poor incident from Max there. You know, I'll
I'm
not
sure
be.
incident is a word, but okay.
I sure as hell won't be taking him down to Toby Jones barbecue and foot massage. I won't be taking him there.
We wouldn't want him ruining that. Right, so it looks like this session is just about to get restarted. Shout out to Stu Worth if he's listening, the only commenter so far. Good commentary so far. Thank you, Stu. Really do appreciate that. I'll see you in the morning. Session's just about to kick back in. I think we are going to have another formation lap as well. I don't know if the weather is going to stay the same. I don't know if that was set on random. No, it looks like we are going to be dry now. So
it's looking dry again. You know, I think it was quite funny, to be fair, because whilst that red flag was taking place, Granty Boy had commented on the Discord server saying that it was just about to dry up. So he has his wish. Yeah. It's no longer wet.
Well, we'll see if that leads to any quicker racing, of course. Should lead to less incidents. I don't think we're going to see the same sort of collisions that we've just seen in this race. Now, hopefully, should be a lot tidier through that first sector. Driver's starting to ready up now, just waiting for the remaining 5 or 6 or so. We are looking like, yep, they are all on the grid and ready, and we are going to have another formation lap. So new pit stop strategy, as you can see on the screen at the moment, we've got soft hard or soft medium. There's not much in it in terms of when the guys will be pitting. Obviously they'll pit that a little bit earlier if they do want to get onto those mediums. In all honesty, I think that the mediums might be the tyre to get onto round here. I think the hards might just be that little bit too slow to keep pace with some of these guys.
Yeah, I'm just looking, sorry to jump in there, Tom, just looking at the grid, at the tyre lineup. The first 2 guys, Granty Boy and Chatty Duck, both running the soft tyres. However, I can see that Panda is running mediums. And then the next guy on the grid, in 6th position, Albert DeWitt, is also running mediums. And we saw how quick he was in qualifying on mediums in the dry.
Absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me if you do just see him shoot up the leaderboard very quickly on this first couple of laps if he can get that same sort of pace going. Looks like Darren Mark might be having a few little connection issues there. We'll keep up to date with that, see if he gets any issues, keeps jumping in and out of the session. Just loading round to these guys now, halfway through this lap, just getting those tyres right in the window where they need to be for that start. It is a long start as well, it's a really long run down to that turn 1. And so these guys are to be careful.
The thing is, here at Catalonia, that turn 1 is obviously the main overtaking point here. You know, it's a huge braking zone at the end of a long DRS straight. So later on in the race, we're hopefully going to see quite a few moves made. You know, it's if you can hold the line from the outside of turn 1, then obviously you've set yourself up for an inside move for turn 2. So hopefully we'll see some great moves like that, especially now that it's dry. We should be seeing some quite exciting racing.
Absolutely. I'm going to keep on board with the cinematic camera again, just so we can try and see what happens into this chaos that is turn 1 at this track as the drivers make their way back to the grid. Just starting to form up, and we'll keep an eye out for those lights once again, see if we can get started on race start number 2 this evening. Hopefully we won't need to go to a number 3. Okay, everyone in their positions. We are just waiting for those lights. And here they come. Oh, there's a couple of jump start penalties at the back of the grid, but we are away safely. Nothing that I can see going on at the back. Everyone is looking pretty tidy. Looks like a good run into the first corner for Chatty Duck and Granty Boy. Granty Boy does have the outside line, so he will have the inside coming into turn 2, and he does keep first position there. But oh no, Chatty Duck does take first position in the end, getting the inside run on turn 3. So let's ride on board with Chatty Duck, because that looks to be a very close battle as they head down to the downhill left-hander of turn 5. Granty Boy trying to get round the outside there, but can't quite manage it, and he's going to be side by side again heading into turn 6, although it looks like Chatty Duck has just taken him there. and I think he is going to keep this lead now as they head into the fast right-hander down to the hairpin, just riding on board with Chatty Duck watching behind. It is very interesting stuff. Granty Boy doesn't make a move, although they are very close, almost contacting there with Granty Boy's nose.
Yeah, is it me or is that just a huge lock up there on the inside from Chatty Duck?
It was a huge lock-up, but it doesn't look to have cost him, as he looks to be keeping this position at the moment.
Yellow flags. Sorry, yellow. Yellow flags down at the back there. Mercy Man just coming off the circuit, it would seem. No damage visible to his car, so we're going to continue racing, and race control. DRS is now enabled, so we can start to see a lot more happening, you know, down into this first turn, I think.
So Grantable has now taken the lead. I'm very sorry, the telemetry is messing up again there. Everyone's just making their way back up. Here we go. Grantable has retaken the lead. Sorry about that. It's all showing, as you can see on the screen, showing that Grantable is in 7th at the moment. Not quite making too much sense. I've never seen it do that before, have you? Oh, we have a safety car. That's
I can't say I have, but we've got a safety car, and somehow Trem is up into 2nd on my screen. So we will see exactly.
There we go. He's dropped back down again. Yeah, that's it. Everyone's just shuffling around. And there we have the true order now. So Granty Boy takes the lead into lap 3 with the safety car. Did you see what the safety car was for?
Unfortunately, no, I didn't see what the safety car was. You know, I saw Trem dive into the pit lane after lap 1. However, I think he's made up 2 positions, it would seem, at the moment. Yep, he's made up 2 positions, but he did drop into pit lane. It looks like Simon Jr. and racer number 6 have both dropped 3 positions, so I do debate whether there was an issue there along the line, and we see Granty Boy diving into the pit lane. He's going to make a change.
Diving into the pits there. Everyone except Albert DeWitt, so that choice to stay on those mediums to start off with could be proving a winning strategy here with a safety car early on. So Albert DeWitt does take the lead of this race on those mediums already. We see almost half the field in the pits at the moment. Jamie 11 opting also to stay out on track at the moment. He is currently, let's have a little look, currently on the softs, so he does need to get in the pits at some point a lot earlier than the front runners do at the moment, and he has got a penalty as well. We do have a disqualified already. Wolsey seems to have been disqualified from the session for multiple penalties, and there we are, he is out. So
he may well,
safety lap.
Yeah, he may well have been the cause of the safety car. We're not sure yet. However, I have just seen, obviously, Granty Boy's come into the pits as well. He was leading the race. He's pitted under safety car, come back out 4th position on the circuit, and he's put on hards. So he's going to be looking to go duration here. Obviously, we know that DeWitt is going to need to, potentially at some point, he's going to have to stop on those, and so is Jamie 10 and Darren Mark as well. So Granty Boy's still looking strong. However, he has got Chatty Duck behind him in 5th position, running mediums now. So, you know, what's your opinion? Do you reckon Chatty Duck can run the remainder of this session on mediums?
I think the mediums is the bold shout from lap 3. I think, you know, when it comes down to those final laps, the hards will hold up as the better tyre. It will be interesting to see if Chatty Duck can get ahead of Granty Boy on those mediums though, because that's what he's going to need to do whilst he's got the faster tyre on, of course. Just looking at Albert DeWitt as well, obviously on the mediums at the moment, if he can make his pace advantage count with those guys behind him on the hards, then I think that he is going to be in a good shout for extending that lead. We'll see if he can keep that together and keep it going round. Just keeping an eye on the back of the field as well, and it does look like everyone except for Mercy Men, ZGS, Darren Mark and Jamie 10 have pitted. Or Jamie 10 has just jumped into the pit, so he is following advice, and has ZJS. So there is only going to be two guys in this field that haven't pitted at the moment.
Yeah,
safety car is going to be going around for another lap, so we do have a little bit of a lull here until we can get them off the track.
But it's looking like Trem once again. He's gone for the bold choice as well. He's gone for the hard tyre. He's going to be looking to
under the safety car. Sorry, Aaron. Mercy Men and NUFC fan Liam both just been given 5-second penalties, I believe. Yep, 5-second penalties. And just checking the penalty screen, we can see that Jamie 10 and Simon Jr. do have to serve drive-through penalties as well. So already quite a bit dished out. Sorry there, Aaron.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. You know, as I was saying, you know, it's Trem has also opted for the hard tyre. A lot of them have. James Punt in the Mercedes has dropped all the way back to 12th, surprisingly. So he's going to be one to watch on the restart. Obviously, he's planning on going duration, but he's in there's a big group of them, sort of from Butters in 10th down to Jamie 10 in 16th, that are all now running hards, sitting in behind. You know, the selection of mediums that are in front of them. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys really fare up. Will they, you know, move up as a unit? As such, will we see the hard tyre come into its own? Will we see that medium start to drift off in lap sort of 14 or so? So it'll be interesting to see.
One will isn't get back on board with Albert de Wit for the restart, because I believe that the safety car looks like maybe coming in this lap, and they are just coming round the final parts of sector 3. We'll stick with the cinematic camera for this, just to try and get an idea of what is going on again.
Albert
keep up with the action.
Just backing them up for a swift restart, it would seem. As we now see he pulls through turns 14, 15 round onto that straight. When's he going to go? It's all going to be on reaction here for Darren Mark, who is still on soft tyres.
And they are back up to full speed, and we are green flag. We are racing again. There's a 5-second penalty further down the field for a severe collision with Simon Jr. Albert de Wit does seem to have the pace on those mediums straight away, opening a 1-second gap to Darren Mark. And Darren Mark has already been overtaken by Granty Boy and is falling back through the field rapidly. So not a great restart for Darren Mark in the Haas. Chatty Duck seems to be keeping up pace with Granty Boy though. Again, mediums against hards. We'll see what strategy proves to be the best one towards the end of this race, of course. But a fairly fair restart there. Didn't see any major incidents. Everyone behaving themselves through the first couple of turns. As we look further back, there's actually a bit of action with the Haas, the Renault, the Red Bull, and the McLaren. So that's Panda, Mercymen, NUFC fan Liam, and Darren Mark. A couple of overtakes there. It's like Mercymen has come out better off. No, NUFC fan Liam's come out better off at the moment, heading those guys in 4th place. We are just following them down that long straight for the tight hairpin into sector 3 of this track, where it does start to get a little bit more technical for these guys. But again, we can start to see some gaps opening up. We've got a bit of action further down the field with Mogi in the Williams, some tight racing there with the Alpha right on his heels. The Alpha looking up his inside there, but couldn't quite get the braking right to make a move on him as they head round onto this pit straight.
Just want to make a note here that Granty Boy has just set the fastest lap of the race on those hard tyres that are just 2 laps old, so he's really got some pace. And further down the field, Trem is absolutely flying here. He's now up to 9th. He's in the points from the back of the grid.
Just looking at the battle between 7th, 6th and 5th, so we've got Renault's against McLaren at the moment. Trevor is coming up behind them there to support his McLaren teammate in a second, hopefully. But the Renault's just following McLaren closely, very close there on the pitch straight between those 3 guys. We've now got an AlphaTauri joining the fun. That's Steve Lawson following up on Mercymen, looking to get in on the action as they head down into this fast right-hander coming up.
Oh, big off.
And that looks to be a bad bit of front wing damage for Lawson there. He's going to wait now, find his gap to get back on the track safely, as he will have to limp that back to the pits. That is a shame, because he was looking competitive there with the Renaults.
He was looking quick. He, 5 laps in on those mediums as well. It's for him now. He's got to make a pit stop. He's going to head towards the back end of the field. That was a heavy impact for him into that barrier there as well, causing a bit of damage.
There looks to be a bit of an issue for Trem. He has just span, I believe, so he has dropped a load of places there. All that hard work he's just lost, unfortunately. So he's going to have to do it all again. So drop down to 13th for Trem. We head a little bit further up the field. Mercymen running in 7th. He's about a second off of Wheeler at the moment, his teammate. Those guys both chasing down the McLaren. We'll head back to the front as well, I think, because we've got a good battle going on between Chatty Duck and Albert de Wit.
Yeah, I'm going to just ride on board here for a second with Chatty Duck. Sorry, Tom. I'm just going to ride on board with him just to see, what sort of what he's aiming for with Albert de Wit. I mean, he's de Wit. With Granty Boy. He's now chasing after Granty Boy. both on 3-lap-old tyres. You'd expect that medium tyre to have a bit more oomph and, you know, potentially a bit more grip around these tight corners. Is he going to try and go for a move into turn 1 like we were saying before the race? You know, he's not quite in DRS range yet, but it'll be interesting to see over the course of this next lap exactly what he's going to plan to do.
No, and it does look like there is a gap starting to form at the front. We've now got a 1.5 second gap between Grant Boy and Chatty Duck, and Albert DeWitt a 1.5 second back on Chatty Duck now as well. Another fastest lap there from Grant Boy, setting a 1:17.4 on those hard tyres. Just going to have another look further down the field. We have a close battle going on with the Williams of Mogi and Butters in the Alpha Tauri, just heading down the pit straight for both of them. Looks like Mogi does have DRS as he heads down that into turn number 1. Huge braking zone coming up. And will he get this right to make a move?
He's going to close in under braking. He's going to close in there, and he's going to try and size him up maybe for the next straight.
Yeah, possibly the next DRS zone heading down into turn 10. We'll see if he can get that move done. And there we've just had a little move at the back there as well from Mercy Men jumping into the pits, as is Darren Mark. So that's the two who did not pit under the safety car and now paying the price for taking that risk. We'll stick on board with Mogi as well though, because he is still hot on the heels of Butters. Coming up to that second DRS zone in a second, and he does look like he will have DRS on him. I think it's just too big of a gap to make up, because although it is a DRS zone, it's not actually the biggest straight, so there's not going to be enough there for him to get close.
No, however, just looking at that shot as they come down that straight in cinematic mode, you can see that ZGS23, who once again we said was relatively quick, he is pulling in on Mogi there. He had DRS, he was within range, so it'll be interesting to see, you know, if Mogi doesn't get this move done, is he going to have to go defensive? Yellow flag now in sector 2 as well.
Just keeping an eye on the pit straight. We've got Pando's just made a move on NUFC Liam, so that takes the McLaren up into 4th place. Now he's going to be hunting down the Racing Point of Albert DeWitt. Let's see if he can get anywhere near him on those mediums he's on currently. We'll head back down to that battle with the Williams and the Alpha Tauri. It does seem to have fizzled out a little bit now. Butters pulling away and starting to open up a little bit of a gap, although having said that, it's just reduced again. So real back and forth between these two at the moment. We'll see if maybe there can be a move done on this lap. And again, brilliant cinematic view there. You see the Ferrari coming up in the background, and the Ferrari is now right at the heels of the Williams.
I'm also intrigued to see after this virtual safety car, once this goes back to green racing pace, exactly what's going to happen at the front of the grid here. You know, we see Granty Boy, Chatty Duck's going to be able to get right up behind him, and you know, could we see a change for the race lead?
And they are back racing again. We do have a drive-through penalty for Jamie 10 for speeding under the virtual safety car, so he will have to serve that at some point as well. A couple of people in the pits, racer number 6 and Simon Jr. Holding up the field at the back there, just heading back into the pits. Not too sure if that's going to be damage or tyre change. Granty Boy now has a 1.3 second lead, so his lead's reduced a little bit under the virtual safety car lead, but he is still looking strong. CRL Panda does get himself up into 3rd place.
Although here we go, Albert DeWitt. He's he's in the pitch. He's getting rid of those mediums. What's his choice? He's going for the softs.
So he is going to have the pace, but he has got a lot of work to do. We'll see where he comes out. He's already dropped down to 10th. Looks like he is going to rejoin the field in 11th place. So a lot of work for Albert DeWitt to do, but he is going to be the only driver at the moment on softs, I believe.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
The one-stop strategy. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make that time back.
The only other person on
the drivers above him are going to stop. In all honesty,
I'm going to disagree with you there. Looking at this, NUFC Fan Liam 9-lap-old medium, ZGS 23 8-lap-old mediums. So these guys equally are going to have to, you know, they're either going to stop or they're going to start maybe reducing their pace, reducing grip levels in about 3-4 laps time. Behind Albert DeWitt though is James Punt in the Mercedes, who's really not putting the best performance that I've seen from him. Running 14th, he's on 3-lap-old softs. You know, can you see that potentially, you know, panning out, or can you see him having to go back into the pit lane again?
I mean, the Mercedes did have a good qualifying, so it's surprising to see him all the way down there. Whether or not that's a result of the safety car shuffle as such, but we will see towards the end of the race. Just riding on board with SGS, as there was a little bit of a chance for Butters to make a move there, but it looks like it's not going to happen on this occasion. Butters is closing in onto turn 1, does have the DRS, and he is going to have to back out of that move though.
Oh, and we see another move here from Albert de Wit up the inside of Trem into turn 1, off of that long DRS straight. You know, a move that we said was going to be done. Albert de Wit on those soft tyres clearly had the advantage and got straight up. You know, he was all over the back end of Trem. He was like a fat pigeon on a chip. And he
I think that is possibly the best way to describe what just happened there.
It really is. It really is. You can't deny it. I've seen it. I've seen it many times. I live in a seaside town. You see many of them, and that is exactly the move that Albert de Wit just pulled on Trem there.
Excellent stuff. We've got Albert de Wit now following the Williams, so he's 2 seconds behind. He has got a fair amount to make up there to get himself up the leaderboard, but there is a bit of traffic ahead of him. He's got the Williams of Nogi and then the Alpha of N Willis keeping him company there at the moment. A 5-second penalty for Butters, sorry, 3-second penalty for Butters. I think that is going to be track limits for multiple warnings, so that will have an effect for the guys at that area in the field. Obviously, the point scoring position is very important when you get into there, but you don't really want to be getting silly penalties like that can knock you out of that position. So it'll be interesting to see if that does cause him a problem when it comes to the checkered flag.
I just want to point out, Tom, that, you know, Albert de Wit, once again, just watching him, he is absolutely flying on those soft tyres. I mean, he's, you know, there is, granted, a group of traffic in front of him. However, you know, he's got the pace. He seemingly, you know, he has the racecraft. He's shown in the past couple of races he's got the racecraft to do it. These BWT Racing Point guys are looking really, really swift this season, and you know, he's gonna be able to get some positions.
He's about to make that move on the Williams. I think he's coming up to the second DRS zone as we speak. Well, there's a bit of a fracas ahead of him that's going to help him out. I think the Alpha and the Williams having their own little fight, forgetting about the Racing Point behind them, but looks like DRS into this tight hairpin isn't going to do it on this occasion.
Not quite.
It wouldn't surprise me if he then does take it on the pitch straight.
He's surely going to be looking for that move. Ooh, he was nearly up the inside. Sorry to interject there. He was very, very nearly up the inside, midway through that long right-hander.
I'm going to ride on board with the rear view of N Willis to see if Albert de Wit can get this move done through the pitch straight as they come round the final bend now. He is going to have DRS, and I think but N Willis with DRS as well, so
yeah, it's kind of caused a bit of a DRS train as such, which will make things very interesting. It's all going to now be, you know, Albert de Wit's going to be looking into his braking.
So 3-second time penalty for Trem as well, just got himself into 10th place, the final point scoring position. But at the moment that doesn't like to cause him an issue for the end of the race. We've got 4 laps to go here, just having a look back at the front runners. Granty Boy now has a comfortable 2.8 second lead over Chachi Duck, and then making up the final podium position is Panda in the McLaren with a 13-point gap to the Renault behind him. So I think the podium, barring any major mishaps, is probably going to be set here. I don't expect anyone to be catching those guys at this stage. I think the action is going to be in those positions from 4th to 8th towards the end, just to see if those guys can jostle for those all-important championship points. We'll ride on board with Mogi, who has got a very, very quick Williams, which is something you don't hear often anymore, which is great to be saying, as he chases the AlphaTauri of Butters. Just coming around to that final bend, again he's going to have DRS. I believe Butters will not, because he's just that far back. I know he will have DRS, apologies. So again, this train effect is causing people problems when trying to get that overtake done.
I can see that the Alpha of N Willis just about got a smidgen of breathing space from Albert de Wit, as Albert ran slightly wide on the final turn leading on to pit straight. Although that was so short-lived, you know, N Willis was just too far behind. Having to defend from de Wit has dropped him away from that DRS train. It's allowing Albert de Wit to really pile the pressure on, and once again he's right up behind him, 0.5 of a second off. You know, I'd like to see, you know, I can imagine that there's going to be a move made for this position very, very soon. So I'm just going to stay on board with him for a minute and keep an eye.
They were looking this way on the last lap, but couldn't quite get it done there. But coming up to this DRS soon, a lot closer, and he will have the DRS advantage. But Willis does block him off very nicely there.
Just covering the entrance,
So
but has he
down
covered the exit
hairpin.
enough? Oof.
I think he has. Yeah, he's going to be okay there. So it is all going to count. I think when they come to this pit straight, it's Albert DeWitt has to stay close enough just to get that move done early, get him out of the way, and start looking ahead to the Williams of Mogi if he can make up the time. Although with 2 laps left, it is going to be a big ask.
Once again, Albert DeWitt's DRS wing opens up straight down pit straight. He's going to get the move
That's
done.
an easy move. So Albert DeWitt up into 8th. We will ride on board with Mogi as well, who's having a good look at the AlphaTauri again. These guys have been at it all race so far. Just be interesting to see if they can get this move done before the end of the race. Obviously Butters does have a time penalty as well, which will affect him come the final order, but it will be interesting to see where they end up on track position. Not much going on at the front of the field. It's as we left it at the moment. 3-second lead, 3.5-second lead I should say, for Granty Boy, so that almost looks to be a done deal if they can all keep it on the track ahead of us.
Yeah, it's also just looking at the way this is lining up at the moment. It's once again it's going to keep that constructors championship tight, isn't it? You've got one Mercedes in the top 10 with Chatty Duck in 2nd, but obviously those points almost cancelled out by CRL Panda sitting right behind him in 3rd, and Trem now in the points in 10th, albeit 1 point. But it's gonna keep that gap between the 2 of those teams tight.
Yeah, I mean, the McLaren and Mercedes look to be fighting out for 2nd place at the moment. The Racing Points only going to extend their lead here with the race win, and Albert DeWitt's points, whatever he may pick up on this final lap. Mogi doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the move done on this run down the pit straight, because DRS train causing him problems again. Although we do have Butters heading up for the lap on Simon Jr. as well. So we'll get that sorted. Obviously ghosting on here, so it shouldn't cause any problems for the drivers ahead. It's a little bit distracting, I would say, when you have got to pass someone that's lapped.
It is very difficult, but I'm now just...
Butters runs wide, sorry, off that turn, he's on the grass, and this does open the door for Mogi. Trying to get round the outside here in turn 5, and he's going to head down to turn 6, and turn 7 he's got the job done. So turn 7 he takes it, and he's going to have Butters hot on his heels though for this last lap. It will be interesting to see if we can get another fight between these two before this race is done. That was a very good move there, but all came about from a mistake from Butters. Just one wheel off the track, lost control there and opened the door. So unfortunate there for the AlphaTauri, and that penalty is certainly going to hurt him at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say 12.
It could knock him down to 9th by the end of this race, depending on how fast.
Butters is currently sitting on 12 seconds worth of penalties. So from that perspective, you're looking at DeWitt now sitting in 7th. The Racing Point boys will be quite happy. Obviously, I can still potentially see DeWitt trying to make a move, seeing if anything goes wrong into turn 1 with Mogi. But Butters gets the job done again. They're close.
As does Mogi, fights back, coming round the fast right hander of turn 3. As they head down to turn 4, we'll see if they come across each other again. Let's see what happens. This is where they got the move done earlier. It looks like they're a bit too far apart to cause each other any issues at the moment.
However, once again, DeWitt is now getting right in behind Butters again.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll keep on board with those guys, see if anything can happen on this final lap. The race win has been taken, by the way. Granty Boy has taken that win with a 4-second lead over Chatty Duck. Panda does round off the podiums there, so a good podium for the Mercedes and the McLaren, but it's the Racing Point that does take the race win for us. We'll head back on board with the AlphaTauri and the Racing Point to see if anything can happen. Obviously it's not a massive run to the line on this final corner, so I think we are going to see the positions stay the same on the track, but obviously with that 12-second penalty for the AlphaTauri, it is going to knock him back considerably down the order. So looks like it's going to finish with the Racing Point in 8th place, but he will gain some positions. There we go, he heads up to 7th immediately. We'll see if Butters is currently in 10th place. Will he drop out the points? He will, unfortunately, because of his penalty, so that is a shame for the AlphaTauri team. NUFC Liam making up the final points place there in the Red Bull.
And obviously Trem now getting another point there for McLaren team, so once again, only an extra point, but Every point
I mean,
counts.
it's a point more than unfortunately the other Mercedes got. So it will keep it close at the top there. Obviously, the McLaren guys leading the Mercedes guys by 11 points in the Constructors' Championship, so it is looking tight there. But a great drive from Grunty Boy there, just getting the job done, I suppose. He took the race lead very early on after that safety car, got on the hards very early and just kept the pace up. Wasn't really challenged in the latter part of that race, or the medium part. So a very well done job there to Grunty Boy.
Who would you give your driver of the day to, Tom? Obviously, it just said on the screen there, NUFC support Liam. What would be your opinion on that? Who would you be looking at for driver of the day there?
I tend to agree with the game. I think NUFC Liam did have a good drive to get himself into those points places. I think he had, I can't remember his qualifying place, but I don't think he was incredibly high up. I'd say that the Williams of Nogi, I think he put some good moves in there. The Ferrari as well of ZJS.
Yes, yeah, he had a.
He's gone up to 5th there, so he's made some good.
And with two stops.
Positions.
And with two stops as well.
Look at NUFC Liam and Trem actually 19th and 18th, and they finished 10th and 9th in the race. So
yeah, those guys.
Those two guys there, I'd say that they're probably tied for it. With the Williams of Mogi getting in on shout as well for that 6th place finish from 10th on the grid. So the fun doesn't stop there. We do have another race coming up. We are going to be heading to Silverstone. Obviously, it's a reverse grid for the top 10 for these guys.
Which is perfect for what Trem was talking about earlier on as well. Sorry, just to interject. That puts Trem second on the grid. From a McLaren perspective in the Constructors' Championship, from the Drivers' Championship, it's going to make things very interesting still. It's going to keep that action alive for us.
Absolutely. I think we are going to take another short break on the commentary just while we get ready for this next session. We will be back with you very shortly. Okay, and we are back for race number 2. Just waiting for everyone to get loaded into this session. So, quite a nice race there towards the end with the guys in the midfield. We were looking at some good action there between the guys 6th, 7th and 8th. Did you have I forgot to ask you, Aaron, driver of the day for you on that Spain race? Did you have a particular favourite?
Yeah, I was obviously very impressed with Albert de Witt's performance, but I was equally as impressed with ZGS in the Ferrari. You know, he came from quite far down the grid, and once again he finished 5th with 2 stops. You know, he was the only driver that done a 2-stop strategy in the top 12, of who posted such a high position for having 2 stops. So obviously he put the effort in. He raced well. He had a great drive there. So I'd say he was quite a standout for me there.
He got the result as well.
Yeah, I mean he got the result, and he almost went under the radar really. You didn't really see him making the moves, but obviously he was there. I think he played the strategies right, and he kept on pace really well. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares up in this race here.
The guys just getting ready for the formation lap at the moment. We're going to get underway here. NUFC Liam on pole for this race as the 10th place finisher in your last race there in Spain. So Silverstone, obviously we all know it quite well, being British racing fans. Definitely one of my favourite circuits to race on, especially in this game. You've got the fast straights and the very fast corners as well. Quite hard on the tyres for that reason, so guys will need to be keeping an eye on that tyre wear to make sure they don't try and be heroes and take them too long. The predicted pit stop strategy is shown on the screen ahead of you now, so that's soft mediums or soft hards. Again, there really isn't going to be much in it. I would be surprised if we get another safety car that we don't see everyone just dive into the pits again like they did on the last race. So could see a bit of a safety car shuffle if we get that again, but we do have a nice dry race ahead of us again. Doesn't look like there's any cloud in these virtual skies, so should be looking like a nice and straightforward race. Disqualification on the safety lap for Simon Jr. and D. Lawson, maybe just getting a little bit too excited there with their cars.
Yeah, it's worthwhile mentioning that in the real world, Ferrari have a lot of wins here. 14 or so wins here at Silverstone. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys fare up. Are they going to keep in check with reality? Is ZGS going to have another phenomenal drive and maybe take a podium here at Silverstone? And also
certainly got a bit of fighting to do. Just having a look at the Constructors' Championship for the Ferrari guys. At the moment, in a close battle with the Renaults, 2 points in it between those guys. Obviously not taking into account the results of the last race, but we will see if that battle continues here with ZGS and B. Wheeler lining up right next to each other in 6th and 7th. So drivers starting to form back onto the grid as we get ready for the start of this British Grand Prix. We will see them head, it's not a massive straight to start off with, it's the newly named Hamilton Straight, as they head down into Abbey, but that first turn is full throttle, so do keep an eye out for anyone just getting a little bit too wide on that first corner.
Yeah, exactly. The first braking zone we're looking out for here is probably going to be Village, Abbey and Farm, full throttle.
And they are away, and it looks to be a good start for the guys on front. Everyone holding position at the moment. Trent looks to have got a good launch there, but NUFC Liam does take us through the first corner and holds his lead well there. There is already a yellow flag in sector 1 and somebody is off. That is Jamie 10, I believe, that has already gone off the track, so not the best of starts for the Williams there. Further back in the field, we're just going to keep an eye on the middle of the pack guys. We are chasing down on the Wellington Straight at the moment. Big braking zone into Brooklands there, as we start to see a bit of a shuffle at the front as well. NUFC fan Liam, though, is holding that lead well as we come down to the National Pit Straight. You can see Albert Witt in the background there, just trying to warm up those tyres a little bit more, maybe not getting the grip that he quite wanted from that start. It does look to be putting a bit of pressure onto Tremlo as they come round into this final sector, heading up to it now through Maggots and Beckett's, and heading down onto the Hanger Straight. So will there be a move here? I don't think there's going to be. No,
I don't think he's going to have enough. He's not going to be close enough. Not going to be close enough going into Stowe.
Has already got the batter of. Oh no, they're battling Chatty Duck and Granty Boy, heading down into Club Corner. We'll see if a move can be done at this corner as they head back onto the Hamilton Straight.
We see M. Willis has also dived into the pits. You know, has he sustained any damage? I'm just going to keep an eye on him for a minute because you know, he started quite high up on the order, and I didn't actually see any issue with him. You know, you never know what's happened here. We might have missed a little bit of damage, maybe on the front end of his car. Is he going to have a new wing? Yes, he's having a new wing, and he's switching out for the mediums earlier on.
So we'll head back to the guys at the front end. NUFC Family holding a 0.5 of a second lead over Trem in the McLaren. With Ingrid Albert DeWitt in the Racing Point, following up by Mogi in the Williams. Just keeping an eye further back. Again, Granty Boy and Chatty Duck going at it, swapping positions as they head through the final corner there of Coates Corner, heading to Maggots and now Beckett's.
Just riding on board with Chatty Duck here, and he's starting to pile the pressure onto the back of Granty Boy. Granty Boy is not looking as quick in this race, maybe potentially not his favourite circuit, not, you know, not as quick as he looked in Spain there. So it'll be interesting to see how he runs.
I think Granty Boy has just taken that position from Chatty Duck.
It just almost looks to me here like Chatty Duck is just not giving up without a fight though. He's really pushing. As we see, NUFC fan Liam has just set a new fastest lap of the race.
Already a couple of penalties rolling in for the guys towards the back of the grid. We've got Dean Lawson on a 3-second penalty, Wolsey on a 3-second penalty, and a 10-second penalty for ZGS. So not an ideal start for the Ferrari at all. Obviously, we give them a lot of props for his result in the last race.
Sorry, Tom. Here we see.
Having a bit of a shocker.
We're seeing Chatty Duck just putting the pressure, once again putting the pressure onto the back of Granty Boy. As Granty Boy tried to make a move on Moggy up the inside, he ran slightly wide, allowing Chatty Duck just to slightly get a run on him. He held the position, held it well, but you know, just shows, you know, that the battle up ahead. Granty Boy is going on the attack on the back of Moggy. So will it, you know, allow a little bit of weakness? Will it potentially show some gaps to Chatty Duck? Can he afford to be showing gaps to him, really? We shall see how this all pans out. It'll be quite interesting to keep an eye on this section of the race for a minute.
Yeah, difficult to get moved on through Maggots and Beckett's, of course, but we then do have the Hanger Straight coming up on the second. Sorry, it's the second DRS zone coming up as well. So that move is done by Grant Boy, and Chatty Duck is going to follow as well. And that is the Williams, unfortunately, a sitting duck there. But they're going to head. That was, I've got to say.
I like what you did there.
Best thing I'm going to say. Almost as good as Fat Chip on a Pigeon. Granty Boy running wide there into Club Corner, and it is getting a bit messy up there with the two Racing Points looking like they're almost going to come into a bit of contact.
Once again,
board with Mogi, but he has a good view there of what's going on ahead of him. Chatty Duck does manage to keep that lead ahead of Granty Boy as they head down into turn number 3 here.
Next target for Chatty Duck is looking like it's going to be DeWitt as well. And hang on, it looks from Mogi's perspective almost Granty Boy almost getting the job done up the inside of Chatty Duck as they head.
So just riding on board with DeWitt, he has DRS, and therefore there's a bit of a DRS train going ahead of him. So I don't think there's going to be any moves coming down here on the Wellington Straight as they head round to Luffield and to Woodcote to get back onto that National Pit Straight. We'll see if anyone can get the move done there, where Chatty Duck does just get ahead of Granty Boy there.
Just going to take a little look here at you know, so far, you know, pit stops, who's made what. We've seen a couple of guys drop into the pits, those being M Willis, Darren Mark and ZGS 23. You know, one of the guys that we had pegged to do really well in this round of the league. Unfortunately, he has had to dive into the pits. I don't know if he sustained damage, but he drops back to 19th. He's chosen the medium tyre. You'd like to assume he'll be going.
There's a bit of movement up front. Chatty Duck has taken the place off of Albert DeWitt, so that is the Mercedes, but immediately Albert DeWitt dives into the pit lane, I don't know if that was intentional, whether it's just a little bit of damage that's gone on there. We'll keep an eye on Albert DeWitt through the pits to see if he does have any damage on his vehicle.
Once again, just jumping back to what I was saying on the tyre front, we see ZGS down the back end of the grid now, 19th position, running fresh mediums. On that screen as well, we can see that Chatty Duck right up behind Trem, both different tyres. Trem running the softs, Chatty Duck running the mediums. He's gonna go for the overlap quite clearly with both Trem and NUFC fan Liam. He's gonna try and get the move done.
Advantage there, but he can't quite get around the outside of Trem there. So holding up that second place currently, but I think that is going to be a big ask coming into the next DRS zone if he is within range. Just taking a look out front though, the Red Bull of NUFC fan Liam, who has opened up a 7-second gap between himself and the McLaren behind him. So going out strong there, the Red Bull. Let's see if he can keep the pace through the race. Just heading back onto the hangar straight here, just to see. Oh, sorry, no, we're through Maggots and Beckett's.
Maggots and Beckett's now onto the hangar straight. This will be the moment.
And DRS for Chatty Duck, will he get the move done? It looks like it's going to be way too easy for him as he just breezes past the McLaren there. So Chatty Duck up into second. Ramifications there for the Constructors' Championship, of course. We do have movement as well with the other McLaren taking a position off the Williams of Nogi. So looking like a good showing so far for the McLaren, sitting third and fifth.
Yeah, we're also going to have
into the pits as well. So strategy game being played early on as well. Actually, we're halfway through the race, so that's not fair to say.
Just going to have another quick look a little bit further back at James Punt. Now in the top 10 is the second Mercedes in the top 10. Running the same set of softs. He's not been in the pit lane yet. Running very close to the back of the Renault B Wheeler. Gonna be potentially looking to get a move done in this DRS zone. But that now means that both Mercedes, both Mercedes are in the points. Both McLarens are in the points. How's this going to look from a championship's perspective? It's looking like it's going to get close.
So yeah, just riding on board with James Punt at the moment as he hunts down this Renault of Wheeler. Coming up now into apologies, we're into Cope's corner at the moment. So just keep an eye as he goes through here. And Maggots and Beckett's just trying to keep the speed up so he can get a good exit onto the hangar straight and possibly attack the Renault of Wheeler. So this is the all-important corner here. Chatty just coming up there to keep the speed up. Doesn't look like he's going to be within range to do any damage here, but you look up ahead, we've got Mogi, who has taken a place off of the McLaren of Panda. Mogi off the track there ever so slightly, and I think that might compromise him here coming down to club corner, but Mogi gets the braking zone just right to hold that position from Panda.
Must say Mogi in that Williams has had an excellent drive this evening. He's been absolutely flying. Riding on board now with CRL Panda, we do see that his pit window is open on those mediums. So is he going to take this opportunity now? Is he going to come in this lap? I think we can probably expect to see him come in for some softs this lap.
So just a bit of movement up front as well. Second place Chatty Duck does come into the pits now. So we are starting to see the front runners pit, see if that will make anything happen for them. Panda on the straight with Mogi side by side, but he is going to get the DRS, I believe, so he will take that position and move himself up into third place, but still does have to stop. So
looking,
we are starting to see the strategy game come into play.
Yeah, I mean, looking from a strategy perspective here, we're seeing CRL Panda, who ran the mediums from the beginning of the race. He's potentially dipping into the pits.
Coming straight back though, sorry, on the national pit straight as they head into Cope's corner. A very good move there to do that. I think that was without DRS as well. We don't have DRS.
Yeah, that was pure driving ability. Like we said, Mogi has had one hell of a race this evening.
Absolutely, yeah, he's
just
strong in that Williams.
Just going back to the strategy side of things, CRL Panda, he's going to pit in, the top 8 drivers here, all running the same, all running 6 laps on the original set of tyres. CRL Panda, out of all of them, is the only one running mediums. He's keeping pace on those mediums. He's not going for the pit lane.
We are starting to see the guys ahead of him head for the pits though, so NUFC fan Liam, be interesting to see where he comes out after his blistering start to this race. He's already dropped down to third. Let's see if where he is going to end up getting out here. We'll ride back on with him in a second. But yeah, everyone coming in for the pit stops now, so we're going to see the field start to level out and get a true idea of, once stops are done, who is going to be back in the lead. So NUFC Liam rejoins the race in 4th place at the moment, so that's not a massive loss for him. He looks to be keeping that lead over Granty Boy now. The 3 guys ahead of him are yet to pit. He does have a 6-second gap to try and hold on to for the last 5 laps of this race. But as you've seen in the last race, Granty Boy more than capable probably of making up that time. So it'll be interesting to see if NUFC Liam can hold him off. NUFC Liam does have a penalty as well. I've just noticed that 3-second penalty, so he is going to need to have a 3-second gap at a minimum to any hope of this race win.
I'm now also looking at the fact that James Punt and Butters, both of them running old soft, 7 laps old. You know, we can expect to see them most likely jump into the pit lane anytime soon. So it'll be very interesting to see.
They're going to have to get in soon, otherwise I think leaving it too late.
I think that's how it's going to have to be. You know, the only concern I have now from a strategic point of view, James Punt is in the pit lane, CRL Panda not in the pit lane again. You know, he's going the distance. He's going to try and draw out that race lead. You know, he's going to leave himself tight. You know, if he goes onto those softs and doesn't then come out in first place, he's got to be leaving himself very, very tight to get the heat into the tyres and actually, you know, push forward again. So it'll be interesting to see if NUFC fan Liam on those fresh mediums can catch CRL Panda, or whether the McLaren is going to have the advantage. He's looking strong out there at the minute, though, I must say.
We're going to head a little bit further back, just keep an eye on what's going on with Albert DeWitt and Mogi. Again, not too far to travel at the moment. Running in 9th and 8th place at the moment. Let's see if anything can be done coming up to the Wellington Straight. He does look like he's going to be very close and hot on the heels of the Williams there. The Williams with the DRS as well. Doesn't look like Albert DeWitt is going to have enough to get past him on this occasion. There is also a 3-second penalty for Granty Boy. So that has made it interesting at the top there with NUFC fan Liam. I imagine if he's seen, he wouldn't have seen that pop up. But that is going to be a massive weight off of him, knowing that he's no longer got to keep that 3-second gap.
No, however, he's
there for the Red Bull.
You're now looking towards Chatty Duck. You know, Chatty Duck now potentially on the podium. You know, if it is as stands, you know, if any of these penalties get overturned towards the end of the race. But you know, we're looking at this from a perspective of we can only go with what we see on the screen. Chatty Duck currently would be sitting in 3rd place, meaning that the Mercedes once again gaining a few more points. As we see, CRL Panda does dive into the pit lane now. Lap 10 in the pit lane. He's coming out with a fresh set of softs like we predicted. He's going to run them till the end of the race. Is he going to have the pace to catch those front runners up again?
Just looking at the board there as well, we had a bit of a McLaren sandwich, but it's gone now. So it's Mercedes McLaren, 3rd to 6th. Again, just proving how close it is between those two teams at the moment in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, week in, week out, it seems to be really, really tight between these two teams. It's exciting to watch, and yeah, that's what we want to be seeing. We want to be seeing some exciting racing. We want to see some good, hard-fought racing. But like I said to you earlier on, Tom, I'm not too sure if CRL Panda has left it potentially maybe 1 or 2 laps too late to get in there for that pit stop. Is he going to have the time? You know, he's now got to pull back potentially, you know, 5 or so seconds to actually catch up with NUFC fan Liam. So I think he might have potentially left it a bit late to come into the pit lane.
Not really going to be challenging for the race win here. I think it is just going to be now, can he get himself any higher up?
He's got to try. Yeah, he's going to want to be trying to get in front of those Mercedes. You know, he's looking from the perspective of his championship. Granty Boy
has just taken a position on James Punt as we say that, so we are back to a Mercedes sandwich with a McLaren filling now. We've got Trem and CRL Panda 4th and 5th, Chatty Duck and James Punt 3rd and 6th. So again, going to make it interesting once we do all the totting up and get the results for the Constructors' Championship to see what ramifications that does have. Just heading back to the front, 2 laps to go. It looks like that gap between Granty Boy and NUFC fan Liam is staying consistent, so I don't think we're going to see much movement there. Again, barring a massive disaster from either of these two. Let's just have a look further down the field. Heading back down the field to Butters in position 9 at the moment. He is trying to hold off tried to get on the attack, but it looks like he's lost a fair bit of time coming out of that corner. We'll head back up to 5th with CRL Panda, now hot on the heels of his teammate Trem.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see.
Had 3-second penalties. I've just spotted that as well.
This will be very interesting to see. Will Trem be letting Panda through? You know, in the sense of, you know, the Tier 1 Drivers' Championship, Chris Panda 211 points, just above him in first place. Granty Boy 289. You know, we've got to be looking at that lead is going to start growing with these race results.
Yeah. And you know what? On those fresh softs as well.
Exactly, he's going to have the pace.
Pace advantage.
And here we see he's making the move.
He does take that 4th place. So the question is now, can he get after Chatty Duck and try and get that podium? It does look like it's going to be a big ask.
But it's great teamwork to see. It's great teamwork to see there. Absolutely wonderful teamwork to see. You know, that Mercedes sandwich looking, you know, with the McLaren filling, it's looking tasty still.
Right, so we're going to head a little bit further down as well. We've got the Williams trying to chase the the Renault of Wheeler trying to chase the Racing Point about a bit, just to see if they can strengthen their points tally. Obviously, as I said at the beginning of this race, the Renault's at the moment the 3rd worst team in the Constructors' Championship, looking to get some points this evening to get back above the Ferrari guys. The Ferrari teammates both out the points at the moment, so that could be important for those guys.
I must admit, I've been, you know, somewhat disappointed with the performance from the Ferrari boys this week. You know, I'd have expected to potentially see a better performance this race. We saw a great performance from ZGS in that first race. It's so disappointing to see that he's dropped 9 positions from the grid, and once again he's in the pit lane. So that is a real shame for him.
So just
as we see, Simon Jr. now a retirement as well. P17.
Retirement at the back of the field. Penalties, James Punt has picked up a 3-second penalty, but Trem is now picking up a 6-second penalty. So there is going to be a lot of movement after the checkered flag. We'll need to keep an eye on that to see where these guys end up. Back at the top of the field, it looks like NUFC fan Liam is going to hold on to this race win. Although Granty Boy has closed the gap to 3 seconds, it does beg the question though, if Granty Boy hadn't got his 3-second penalty, could this result have been that little bit more different? And could Granty Boy have taken the double victory this evening? But, you know, barring miracles, it's a strong drive from NUFC family, and he's led from start to finish, bar his pit stops. Certainly made use of that reverse grid pole from the last race, and it looks like he is going to take the victory here. I don't want to jinx him because he's still got around about half the lap to go, but I think that's looking...
He's looked really strong. He's looked absolutely brilliant. You know, he's managed the gap well. He's looked very strong. You know, he's managed to work his tyres well. Silverstone tends to hate tyres. You know, there's a high load on through these fast turns. Like, you know, for example, you're looking at Abbey, Farm, Beckett's, Maggots. You know, so to be fair, he's managed the race really well. I can't fault that drive. It's been a really well thought out strategic drive from him, so he fully deserves that victory there.
No, absolutely, and it looks like he is definitely going to earn that victory with a solid drive. Granty Boy is hot on the heels and is even closing the gap on this lap as we speak. But NUFC fan Liam does take the checkered flag for the Red Bulls. It's going to be followed up by the Racing Point of Granty Boy, and then Chatty Duck does grab 2nd place following the penalty. So Granty Boy does take 2nd on the track, but Chatty Duck takes it after the checkered flag, so penalties killing Granty Boy there. The McLaren Mercedes sandwich is disrupted, unfortunately. We do have the final race, and that's going to be Panda and Trem for those guys. So again, keeping that race,
keeping that Constructors' Championship really tight once again with that sort of a result. You know, we've seen great points scored from there, and I must admit, Trem, once again, you know, we chatted with him at the beginning of the evening during qualifying. It sounded like he didn't really hold out much expectation, but I think he's had a fantastic evening. He's got in the points both races. I think he's had a solid evening, to be fair.
Yes, yeah, not a bad race at all from Trem there. But yeah, I think driver of this race does have to go to NUFC fan Liam, who's dominated the race from start to finish.
I would be wholly inclined to agree with you. NUFC fan Liam he's done really well. He's driven a great race, like we said. He's managed it well. You know, there was a point where I thought CRL Panda was going to get him on the strategy. As I said to you, I don't know if maybe Panda waited 1 or 2 laps a bit too long for his change, but well-deserved victory for the Red Bull.
We'll keep these Grunt Boys driving their call to F1, but yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Hey, what does it know? What does it know?
What does it know?
We're basing this over 2
we'll
rounds.
watch these guys on the podium and see the final result as well, just to get clarification for where everyone ended up in that race. But certainly a fun evening there. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching these 2 races. Plenty of action to discuss, and I'm sure there will be plenty of chat following the conclusion of this race. Looking forward to next week. These guys are heading to Singapore and Australia. So
I'm going to have to interject, Tom. I'm going to have to interject here. We've got a break next week. It's a 10v10 battle. I think the next rounds, round 16, 17, are on the 1st of February in Singapore and Australia.
There we are. So 10v10 battle. As newcomers to the league, we're not actually too sure what that is, but we're not too sure if there will be commentary for that or not. But yeah, looking forward to the following week when we have Singapore and Australia coming up.
I don't know. Do you,
favourite for everyone?
Do you reckon we'll get asked back?
It's definitely not my favourite. I don't know. We'll have to see what the jury says.
I think that's a good shout.
I enjoyed it.
Same here. It's been a pleasure.
Happily come back. Yeah. We'll see. My voice can get a bit annoying after about an hour and a half or however long we've been streaming, but I can completely understand that. With that, we are going to end this broadcast. Thank you so much if you have been watching this whole time, and you really do need to reevaluate your life if you have been watching this whole time, is what I would say. Have a lovely evening, ladies and gentlemen. Any final words from you, Aaron?
No. You've summed it up a treat. We've had 2 great races here. You know, Spain, GB. What's not to love? We've had 2 fantastic races, albeit the red flag in the first race, which did throw us off a tiny bit. But no, thank you ever so much for anyone who watched, and you know, hopefully join us next time if we're back.
Fantastic. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your evening.